On we go. There's a lot of focus on mum and baby in the early days of parenthood, and why shouldn't there be? But if you're struggling to adjust to life as a new dad, would you admit your feelings to your partner? And what do you do if you feel, as a father, that you're not bonding with your baby? Well, 2/3 of new dads admit to feeling kind of left out, even pushed out in the early days of parenting. And 1 in 10 even suffer from what they describe as postnatal depression, not hormonal depression, but sort of conditional depression, caused by what's going on around them. I have to say, I think it's a father's function in those early days, weeks and months of a new baby arriving to be supportive, to actually not put themselves first and not see it as a kind of an equal passage of rights, but to be there for the wife and the baby. I just think that's the natural order of things. I mean, you've got a 2-year-old now,
yeah,
Iain?
yeah.
What did you think when she was born?
Yeah, well, I'm delighted, obviously. Like, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And, like, I think it's really important. I think a lot of my friends and people around my sort of age, it's, like, really important to, like, bond with your baby early doors, and that's what I've always tried to do.
But did you feel pushed out because of clearly the priority in those early weeks and months was your wife and the baby?
Yeah, I'm very... Our setup, I didn't feel like that at all. I was very fortunate with that. But I think that when you talk about men feeling pushed out, I think that's not to say that a man's putting his emotions or feelings above his own family. He'll always put his family first. I think it's just important sometimes, what we've always thought, in anything that involves your mental well-being, that you need to keep your mental well-being in check so you can be there for your wife and baby. So if a man's feeling like he's pushed out, that's not him going, hey, give me some attention. He's just saying, here's how I'm feeling, so I can be like...
But he's not being pushed out.
But that's what I'm saying. You have to talk about how you're feeling so you can be in a better place. If you had a bad back and you couldn't pick up your kid because your back was sore, you would go and get your back looked at. Yeah. You wouldn't lie there with a bad back whinging at everybody. So if you're feeling some sort of mental instability, whether it be like feeling low, like you're... not feeling valued or pushed out, you can have those conversations to then be a better functioning dad down the line.
Yeah, and I think we have to be really careful with our own personal narrative or experiences, because you can't tell someone how they feel. Like, you can't say to them, oh, you shouldn't be feeling like that. This is what you're supposed to be doing. I think just because a man might say, actually, I'm feeling a bit left out, I don't feel like I get to bond with the baby as much, or I don't get to spend as much time with you, it doesn't mean, like what Iain said, he's not going to fulfil the role of being a supportive father. He's just using that space to speak. And I think it's really important, especially through what we've gone through over these last few years, that there is spaces for men to be vulnerable in their relationships and with their friends.
I agree you shouldn't be wagging kind of, you know, the lecturing finger at a man who says that he's feeling pushed out. But I certainly think that other guys who have been through the experience can draw on their experience. I mean, I would say to any young father watching this now who's feeling this way, I'd say, look, your time will come as a father. It's almost like the weather as you go through the months and the years of parenting. And fathers, they come into their own a bit later on.
The trouble is what happens, though, Richard, it's like, you know, you can say what should happen, but my own experience, which I've talked about for 34 years, is that when I had Matty, I thought that my experience would be like the Parent and Baby magazines, because I was so desperate to have a child, and that's all you saw. And I was plunged into a desperately terrible postnatal depression, which meant that I was hospitalised. So everything that we thought our experience was going to be was different.
Yeah. Right.
And Tim, who I was then married to, would go to the pub and see other men whose wives had had babies, and he was terrified to say how his wife was, because people would say, oh, just give her a new dress and take her to the Metro Centre and everything will be fine. So my depression was that I woke up and my depression was there. And with a lot of these men, they think they're going to be, like you said, that they, you know, but actually what happens is sometimes change is overwhelming for people. And even good change with me was always a trigger for my depression. They have an overwhelming sense of responsibility that some men just can't deal with, so their body and their system and their cortisol, that all takes over.
But that's different from feeling pushed out. That's different. It's almost a sense of jealousy.
I think that
the relationship between mother and baby.
That is a different thing, but sometimes feelings that normally can be addressed and talked through. If you are feeling, I can't talk about this because it should be about my wife and child, you're suppressing, as Judy said, you're suppressing what can become a mental health issue. And I think it's just important to acknowledge that all men think you know, think in one way, but the reality is very different.
Yeah.
Some men as well whose wives have got postnatal depression. Some men, they are also overtired. There is a massive strain on them as well. Just
if they're doing the night,
because of tiredness.
There's other areas, you know, I've heard this as well when it comes to marriages, like when people are getting married, and also where I've heard this conversation where men are feeling like they haven't got the space, they are being so supportive, but they haven't got the space, is miscarriages. You know, men are dealing with seeing their partners going through something so heartbreaking, emotionally and physically, and they are being their backbone, but then it's never really spoken about. How did you feel about... They've got to carry on and go to work. They've got to carry on because they haven't got the physical element that they're feeling, but they're seeing, like, they were excited to be having the baby, they were having to see their partner in such an emotional way, and actually watching your partner physically hurt, and there's nothing you can do, you know, so...
Well, I must admit, I identify with that. I mean, Judy's been very open about it. She had a miscarriage at 16 weeks. And you're right, as a man, the sense of powerlessness, complete sense of inertness. There's nothing other than trying to offer verbal support. There's nothing you can do. But there is this thing called kangaroo bonding. Which I'm not saying this is necessarily a quick fix, but apparently research shows it is very effective at quickly bonding a father and mother, obviously, but we're talking about fathers here, a father to a baby. Can you explain what... Because you've done it.
Well, skin on skin.
Skin on skin.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's what got you the baby.
Go on. All right, I'll pick it up while he recovers from that.
It's important. I think it's really great. It's basically just you have a cuddle with your child, skin on skin, and I think it's really important straight from the second they arrive. And like I believe in the sort of like the medical benefits of doing that, and even if not, you just get a lovely cuddle with your baby. Like it's
well, there are specific benefits. Research has shown that it obviously has an enormous impact on a father's confidence and self-esteem. It just goes straight to the brain cortex. It reduces psychological stress. It promotes his paternal role. Apparently, I mean, he feels automatically stronger as a father, and it does physical things like lowering your blood pressure, lowering your heart rate.
And it's lovely.
It is.
I love
remember
a
it
cuddle.
vividly. It is
and
lovely,
I love taking my top off.
It's funny, we've got our latest granddaughter. She's 10 months now, but when she was a couple of months old, and it was one of the first warm days of the spring, and I was in the garden with my top off, with my shirt off.
There's an image for everyone at home.
She was brought out. The baby was just in a little nappy, and she was put on my chest, and it brought it all back when Jack and Chloe were little. It's a lovely feeling.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Well, look, we have details of helplines for anything that we've been talking about in this segment, and you can find them on our website. We hope they're helpful to you. We hope the conversation's been helpful.